what they want to do is they want to make sure that you already have a following. You're already viral. You're already successful. You already have people coming out to your shows. There's no artist development happening anymore. And they want to say, here's $500,000, go on a tour, do better, pay us this $500,000 back. And if you don't, you're fired. You still owe us $500,000 and we own all your songs. So that's what a record label does in 2025.
Hello, welcome or welcome back to Prima Donnas. I am here today with, of course, Mishka and Josh from Is It Josh?
Hello.
You ditched the corporate world to pursue music. You've opened for Cheap Trick to 40,000 people, hit 1,000,000
Yeah,
streams, 250,000 followers, and ate the most hot dogs at the Oklahoma Fair. Sorry, is that right?
that might be a different Josh. Yeah, that might be a different Josh. I got close.
You got close. For those who don't know you or aren't familiar with you, can you give us some lore?
Yeah, gosh, I was born in New England and New Hampshire, grew up in New York a little bit, but then I was an Air Force baby, so I ended up in Omaha, Nebraska for most of my life. And
Oh.
yeah, from there I basically started grinding the music scene, and I grinded Omaha for about 20 years. I started drumming when I was 10, piano when I was 12, just started a band with my brother at 14. And from there it's just been nonstop. It's been all consuming. I went through my brother's band and played some high school parties, and then uh played with some, older. At the time I was 16 and now I'm 34, but at the time they were older guys because they were like 36 and I was 17. I was drumming for them and started my own pop punk band. We did some post-hardcore for a little bit, but each one of those saw like some mild success or moderate success, and then they would just get cut short by something, like a bunch of members quitting or a pandemic shutting the world down right when we hit 1,000,000 streams on a single, like things like that. And then yeah, I gave up after I was like, I'm 31. It just isn't seeming to happen. And then kind of started posting on TikTok and got lucky. Started going viral really early and was able to revive my music career a little bit here with Is It Josh. That's
Hell
how I ended up
yeah.
with this solo project, yeah.
So you, like, really have, like, a solid musical background behind you.
Yeah, I've been playing music since about 10 years old, 10 or 11,
Wow,
when I got my
okay.
drum set, and I've been in bands since then. Yeah, just been grinding it out, and, it's just one of those things where the bar just kept getting set higher and higher. Like, I would set a goal like, "Oh, man, it'd be cool if we got 1,000 streams." And then suddenly I was like, "Oh, I want 10,000 streams," and it just kept going higher and higher, and here I am in my 30s, and I'm like, I'm pushing for the stars now, so
You've been around for a long time, since the MySpace days.
yeah.
Can you kinda walk us through your evolution as an online musical artist?
Yeah, what's funny is, when I should preface with this, I got into the marketing world after I gave up on all this because of what I did for my bands. Because when I was 14, it was MySpace. It was promoting us on MySpace. We actually did really well, and you were stuck in that, "Oh, they're a MySpace fan," but you were still, we did well. And then, from there, it switched to the YouTube era. And so I had to start promoting my bands on YouTube. MySpace was kinda dying out, but back then, YouTube was like the Wild West. Like, they sorted comments by new before Google bought them. I don't know if you guys remember what YouTube's comments used to look like before the Google takeover, but it was bad. It was a wasteland, but, yeah, we used to run, like, scripts and bots and stuff that would reply to all the people commenting on, like, Sleeping with Sirens video.
Oh my god,
And,
really?
like, yeah, and then we'd send them, and every band was being, and then we'd send them these messages that were like, that were just like, "Hey, we noticed you like Sleeping with Sirens. You might like us too." And then that got us some success on YouTube, but then Facebook started becoming the thing. So then we went through the era of, "Oh, we gotta grind Facebook," and I'm sure you both remember the era of just getting spammed with event invites from bands, like,
Yes.
just constant. That was like that grind, and that was my least favorite. And then it was Instagram, yeah, and then it just kinda kept evolving, and I just mastered each one of those platforms the best I could, and even outside of social media, like having to pivot from album sales to streaming on Spotify and things like that. So I watched the whole industry just completely change, and it's been a wild ride. And I think that TikTok and Instagram, now that they're kind of pushing Reels, has turned into something very similar. But I think it's brought up the same challenge that MySpace did. Is like, oh, you're a TikTok artist. Oh, you're a
Mhm.
MySpace band. And it's like, well, people need to understand that it's not the case. These are the tools that we have to promote ourselves as time passes. So, you know.
I definitely wanna circle back to, the social media aspect of your journey as an artist, but I wanna ask, do you remember the first song that you ever wrote or recorded?
Yeah, I do. It was, uh, it was called Misery. I
So
know.
on brand.
So, I mean, I was 14, maybe 13. I don't even know if I had crested 14 yet. And my dad volunteered at a radio station, and they just gave him all this old equipment. And so he set us up this janky recording studio in our basement. And me and my brother recorded like these 3 demos, and the first one was Misery. And it was just like Rocket Summer-esque, like very like pop punk bordering pop rock. And I'll be honest, those songs hold up. For a 14 and a 16-year-old just banging those out in a basement, those songs were actually like I went back, I'm like, we were kind of on to something, you know.
And like the thing about, especially for our younger viewers who are just used to this like TikTok, Instagram reel landscape, recording music way back, like it wasn't as simple as here's my USB-C microphone or here's the like jack to like plug my guitar in kind of a thing. It was like analog to digital, and it
It
was
was
not an
insane.
easy thing to do.
No, and that's what if I could choose one thing to change about my journey is that I wish we had the technology back then. Because I got lucky by having a dad that volunteered somewhere, but even the equipment we had, I mean, we couldn't do much with it other than a crappy demo. But I remember when I got serious, my first band, uh like the pop punk band, like when I was like 19, the one that I was really grinding with, it was like thousands of dollars per song to record. And this was like you'd have to go to a big studio, get the whole band. You'd be there for, sometimes 18 hours working on one song. And it's just thousands of dollars, and that's for one song. And then you have to send it off to get mixed and mastered. It was this whole process. And now my entire album was written in the basement of my friend's house. You know what I mean? It's just it's a totally different world. And if 14-year-old Josh had that technology, I wonder how things would have shaped out differently, if I didn't have to somehow crowd fund from family and friends enough money to record one demo. Yeah.
I've Yeah, but I feel like you need to kinda go through all of these trials and tribulations to kinda get where you are now, so,
Truly,
you
yeah.
gotta appreciate the struggle a little bit. I wanna know in your songwriting process, do lyrics or melodies come first?
For me, it's it's melodies usually, and I write phonetically. So, like, um it's kinda like I'll write a melody, I'll be humming a melody, and then from there, it'll turn into, like, if I'm going like, it'll turn into, like, "Samba damba ga damba da ba, do you wanna go with dinner?" And then some of those consonants and vowels will stick out, so they're "go" stuck out, and then my brain will latch on to "go" and I'll write around because I can't. Does that make sense? So, I'll
Yeah, no,
find
that totally makes
phonetics that
sense.
work. Yeah, and then I'll build the structure around it, and then usually I'll do that with one line and be like, "Okay, this is what the song's about," and I'll roll with it from there.
Okay, I actually had a question about your writing, a couple questions about your writing process as well, so I'll just throw them in here.
Yeah.
So I consider myself, of the two of us, I'm the pop diva of us. And I noticed when I was listening to your discography that your music really rides the line between that pop and the harder, more like emo, pop punk kind of sound. And I was curious, do you write songs with those like kind of pop sensibilities in mind, or is that something that kind of comes after the fact?
In mind, 100%. I'm a bit of a pop diva myself. So, yeah, my goal with this Is It Josh project and what I told my 2 best friends who are my producers, they write every song with me, or most of my songs with me. Um, and the vibe was I wanna write a song that sounds like Justin Bieber would sing on it, or The Weeknd, or, but I want it to come from a post-hardcore background, an emo background, So there's just these little things that I do in my song where I'm doing vocal runs and I'm doing falsettos and head voice of what you'd hear in pop. But the lyrical content and some of my vowel shapes and things kind of bring in this dirtier, edgier kind of sound. And just trying to smash those together and seeing how far we can take it is really the goal. I think a lot of bands that try to mix pop and rock go one way or the other. You might get like a pop verse and then the chorus will come in and they're just, "Ah," like screaming and stuff. And so I'm trying to find that happy mix where it's like all these elder emos who grew up listening to what we grew up with. Now we're all in our 30s, late 20s, early 40s, and our tastes have evolved a little bit. And so I'm trying to find a way to bring that emo, angsty, post-hardcoreness into pop in a way that isn't overly aggressive, I guess.
You're kinda towing the line between wanting to take what inspired you, but also make it something new so it doesn't just sound like everything else that already exists.
Yeah, 100%. And like we're seeing how far we can push it, especially the last song on my album that's coming out is called Unclear. That's a single that's already dropped. But I mean, that was probably the song where we were like, okay, how far can we go? Because that is a song that has really nice falsetto, beautiful held out notes. And then the chorus, we just do one floor tom hit and it just goes into like it sounds like LS Stevens or something. Like it's just screaming and chaos, and then it's just right back into this nice little pop. But
Well,
yeah.
actually, speaking of unclear, I had a question about that. So during I'm assuming it's the chorus part, possibly the refrain. You do kind of like a screaming tone that's very, very high, like
Mhm.
way up here.
Yeah.
And I noticed it's also in the background of Get It Right, and it's also featured quite heavily on your first album, Chapter One.
Yeah.
Is that
Wow.
something that you had to
Great
like
research. That was insane. Yeah.
I I listened to all of them. I streamed them all on Amazon Music, so you get the most royalties.
Let's go.
But yeah, no, I'm curious. Like, is that something that you had to learn how to do, or is that something that you just kind of done throughout your career prior to this project?
It's both. I've always done it, and it's funny enough, it started, listening to the Hanson brothers because they were 10, 12, and 13 at the time when they wrote, like, MMMBop, and so, just singing up in that range as a child, but then I remember Evanescence came out, and, like, that "Wake Me Up," like, I never no, I was always, "Wake me up," like, I was always singing her parts, and it was always, like, the Alicia Keys would come on. And I'm not singing, "I keep on falling." I'd be in the car being like, "I keep on falling," just going after it. And then I get into the post-hardcore scene and it was all high and I just loved it, like Anthony Green and Craig Owens, what they were doing. And I just did it wrong though back in the day. So I would belt and I would just, if it wasn't coming, I would just tighten up and just force it out. And I ended up giving myself nodules and I couldn't sing anymore, and I had to have surgery and get those cut off. And so I couldn't speak for 14 days after that. I had just a vow of silence. And now that those are gone, that's when I was like, oh, my vocal cords weren't able to close correctly. Then I went and took some lessons and found out how to do that. And now, yeah, now I'm kind of trying to lean into it. I think I'm getting up into soprano, like top end of soprano now, with some of the notes I can hit in those falsetto ranges. But yeah,
That's
yeah.
really like impressive, honestly.
Thank you.
If you were to
Thank you.
give, like, a concise, shortened version of, like, how to scream like "Is It Josh?" What would it be?
Yeah, totally. So what you wanna do is you wanna be able to make sure that you can get up into, like, at least, like, a C sharp 5. I think it's 5, not 6. Hit it on the piano, but I was doing an F sharp, and you just need to be able to get way up there and make sure that you're doing a mixed voice, and when you're comfortable singing that high, start frying it a little bit. And so you're not what I'm not just screaming. I am singing very high notes. Um, and then I'm just frying it enough. And if your voice hurts, you're doing it wrong. I did that for 2 hours to get the perfect take, and by the end of it, I still sounded like this. So you wanna just sing very high in a note that sits right in your perfect head voice range, and then just slowly start and seeing how much you can add to it. I always try to describe it as when you're a kid and your mom tried to make you do the dishes. You go, "Ugh." You know what I mean? That's you add that noise. Yeah. So
Okay, yeah.
it's a little smoke and mirrors, though, I will say, because when you listen to me on Unclear, that is 3 stacks. And you will know, I don't know if you know much about music production, but that's a typical thing to do with screaming is you stack your vocals. So that's me singing it 3 times on top of each other, and 2 of those are pulled way down. So it kind of fills it out and makes it sound a little more
Okay, that makes me
full.
feel
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, no, if you go and like if you listen to like someone like Bring You the Horizon, I mean, Ollie will stack 6 screens and then he'll also do a clean over it and then maybe an octave down. So you've got 7 parts making it sound like this insane noise in your ears. But yeah, that's how we do it in the studio.
Okay, so it's more about building up that sound rather than just trying to like brute force it.
Yeah, and that's why I want to say it is because if you try to mimic a lot of your favorite artists exactly down to what they sound like on the record, you are going to hurt yourself because you have to
I've done
imagine
it.
they cloned your artist 4 times and had them do the same part. So you're never going to get that. If you get a microphone and record yourself screaming and layer them on top of each other, you'll be like, "Oh, I sound just like this guy now." Like or the person that I'm trying to copy. So that's all it is. It's production magic, and that's why on stage, uh, even post-hardcore bands, metalcore bands, they're all using backing tracks now because we're so locked into those screaming noises, uh, that those screams are coming right through the tracks
Ooh.
as well as the person holding the microphone.
Josh out here is just pulling back the curtain. He's like, "All right,
Oh,
guys,
I
secrets
do,
out."
yeah. I don't care. It's a good show, you know what I mean? And it's the only reason we do this is because like everything in modern production is hyper tuned. Back in the day, even the floor toms or like the toms on the drums, those were just tuned to random notes, cymbals, now everything's so digital that if the let's just say the key of the song is in A minor, like every single signal going in is going to be in that key. And that's why everyone has to use some form of auto tune now because you don't have any accidentals happening. Everything's just so locked in. And as consumers, our ears get so dialed into that if we were to go to a show now and watch someone without all that happening, you'd be like, wow, they're terrible. Like,
I think that it's really informative too because I feel like ugh, this like post-hardcore kind of emo sound that you kind of fall into often gets um kind of an inaccurate and bad rap for being like, oh, they're just screaming, it's easy. But
yeah.
clearly, like having to record 4 or 5 different parts to then be stacked on top of each other is a lot more effort than
Yeah.
just like a clean top line.
Yeah. And I'm sure that there are great screamers out there who aren't layering their vocals, but if you go listen to any screams now and really listen in, you're gonna hear some consonants just stagger a little bit. And be like, oh, there it is. There's his second voice. It's buried, but it's there.
Wild. Okay, well,
Curtain
I'm gonna
pulled
do that.
aside.
Yeah, you're gonna get some hate comments, like, in
Yeah,
your DMs
whatever.
now, be like, "You can't tell them that, they're not supposed to know."
Yeah. Oh,
I
especially when you get into the high screams stacked on top of the low screams, and you're like, oh, that sounds like a goblin. How'd they do that? Well, they recorded it 4
The
times.
computer, the computer.
Yeah.
You are
Yeah.
an independent artist.
Mhm.
Can you tell us some of the pros and cons of not dealing with a label?
Yeah, totally. First one that comes to mind is my album has 18 songs on it, and that would just not be allowed. You know, the label will be like, "Cut 7 of those, dude, you're not doing that," and I don't have to deal with that at all. Um, here's my take on labels. Like, I've turned down enough offers now to see what they're looking like, and what they wanna do is they wanna make sure that you already have a following, you're already viral, you're already successful, you already have people coming out to your shows, there's no artist development happening anymore, and they want to say, "Here's $500,000, go on a tour, do better, pay us this $500,000 back, and if you don't, you're fired, you still owe us $500,000, and we own all your songs." So that's what a record label does in 2025. It's just the reality of it. Unless you find a good indie label, that's just the reality of it. So, just I went out and I found independent investors that aren't locking me into that help me pay for some things. And I book my own tours, you know, and I manage myself, and I have nobody to answer to. I have nobody, if I'm having a bad mental health week, I have nobody breathing down my neck saying, "You need to post and do promos and do this," and it's just that I get to do whatever I want, whenever I want, and that's the positive side. The downside is I have no idea what I'm doing. and I have and I I have nobody to ask. So, yeah, that's the downside. But I think that my fans and my followers like that because if you go to someone else's Instagram or whatever, everything's so branded and perfect and just it seems so perfect. And like I just posted a video today of me watering my plants just with my lyrics over the top. And I'm like, "Hey guys, it's gonna be on my album. I don't know, just listen," like, and I, I don't know. It's better that way for me, I think. But I just don't know what I'm doing. So,
I'm
but
curious if like that freedom allows for like more creative expression versus with a label and having all of those kind of, you know, um, targets to hit and all of the things you have to do, like the process of it all.
yeah,
Would you say
totally,
without it, it's better creatively?
1000%. And that's such a huge part of it. Is if I signed with the label, they'd probably rip my two best friends away from me and be like, "Actually, our own in-house producers." And B, uh, songs like Down Bad that's not out yet. I have this song where I'm singing about a ridiculous concept, it's just an absurd song, and a label would never. They would be like, "Take this off the album. People are not gonna take you seriously." But for me, it's a fun little song about being down bad and, like, simping over someone, you know? And I don't know, it's funny, and, like, I'm laughing during the song, like, cause like, in, like, some of the takes, I couldn't help but laugh when we kept those laughs in. So, like, that's a good example of something that the label would be like, "Man, this is a sad album about falling in love and getting your heart broken, like, what is this?" You know? Um, yeah, so the creative freedom is great. It's just it's always just me or me and my 2 best friends, and whatever comes out is just keeps locking in, and we don't have to ask permission. It's just it's what it is. I have on this song, I have punk rock songs, I have pop songs, pop rock, post-hardcore. I have a country song that I
Ew.
have on this album.
You have a
Yeah,
Christmas
y'all
song?
alternative, y'all
Yeah,
alternative,
alternative.
sorry.
Okay, okay, all right.
Yeah, alternative.
I did because I listened through your discography, like I said, and I came across your Christmas song.
You'll be okay.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
saddest Christmas song known.
It was iconic though. Like I was listening to it and I was like, oh my God, what?
Can I tell you a little thing about "You'll Be Okay"? I'll make it real quick.
Of course.
Unsigned Pop Punk asked a bunch of bands to do a compilation CD, and this is like volume 3 or I don't know how many volumes they have. They didn't really give me much instruction. They were just like, "Yeah, some people do covers, some people write songs." I'm like, "Okay, cool, okay." And I didn't listen to any of the other ones, and I just go and we just write a song that was so sad, and it's about, like, not having a family on the holidays and things like that. And it ends up going into, like, what is, like, a Trans-Siberian Orchestra hook. I mean, we have, like, huge chimes going, and I'm just, like, holding out these really high, long notes, and it just turned into something that we were just like, "Guys, what?" And at the end of the song, we were like, "Wait, this doesn't sound Christmas at all." And so then he just added sleigh bells through the whole song, and we sent it off. And, the Unsigned Pop Punk hit us back and they're like, "Holy cow, dude, like, this is not what we were expecting, but yes, so cool." And then I listened to it and, like, it was a lot of, like, chestnuts roasting on the open and then, you come to my and it's just like, who is this person? But, yeah, I love You'll Be Okay.
I feel like you met the brief, whereas the other artists who just did like the more traditional songs or covers, like that's the easy way out.
Yeah,
You were
yeah,
the Christopher Walken, but instead of the cowbell, it was the sleigh bells. Like, needs more sleigh
yeah,
bells.
100%. We're like, "How do we make this sound like Christmas now?" And he didn't even say anything. I just saw him, like, drag a sleigh bell sound down, and they just extend it, like, through the whole song. And I was like, "Yep, there it is. Cool. Yep."
All you need.
Yeah. You'd be surprised what sleigh bells can do with solid.
You have a lot of projects that you kind of include within your musical project. A couple of them that I want to talk about are your app and your video game that you made?
Y- Yeah. So this goes right along with not knowing what I'm doing and also doing whatever I want. And so let's start with the video game. I have a core group of fans. I guess, we used to call it a street team. I don't know what they're called anymore. But I lovingly call them the Gloom Squad. And most of them are living in my Discord. That's kind of how we communicate. But I used to stream on Twitch every day with them. And we all were kind of doing this like thing where I had this parallel universe where I was releasing my songs and they all had characters in it. It's very hard to explain. But I ended up learning how to code and, making a small video game, an RPG, where I think 15 of my top fans were in the game as characters. And the premise was I was kidnapped and you had to go rescue me because this record label was gonna steal my song and say it was theirs instead. And so there's fights in it, like old Final Fantasy VII style fighting. And then yeah, you make it through and at the end you save me. And if you save me, you plug my song in its machine and it beams it out to the city and it starts this ending cutscene, um, where my new song plays. And it kicks you out to the menu and it says new game, continue, pre-save. And so that was a way for me to get people to pre-save my song. And it took me well over, I mean, we're talking hundreds of hours to do. And it worked. I got a lot of pre-saves and whatever, but that's just insane behavior. To do by yourself. And then my app is not any I haven't seen anyone except Coldplay doing this, and I don't know if that's abandoned, but I have the Is It Josh app on iOS. You can literally just type in Is It Josh on your iPhone app store. And now I have a web version, so app.isitjosh.com for the Android users. Um, and it's basically I hired somebody, they're called UApp, and I'm kind of their beta tester, and they built me my own social media. So it kind of is reminiscent of Instagram, where my fans can sign up, they can make their own profiles, they can leave comments, they can, uh, you know, they can interact with things. It really looks like the social media we're used to, but it's just in a way that I'm the only one who can make the posts. So it's a really good way for me to do announcements, leak my music early, and just get straight to my fans without having to cut through an algorithm. And so yeah, it's really cool. I have it set to be like, um, non-users and non-subscribers can see like the most recent posts. But if you want to go deeper into the archives, you gotta subscribe. But yeah, so I actually released my music like a day early there, so a lot of them get to hear the songs first and they get to see the songwriting process. Just a lot of the stuff I can't spam on social media goes on my app. So it's kind of like the insider club. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really cool and ambitious and commendable. It kind of just proves how much you really want this to work and how much you're willing to give to fans and to like build a community around this.
Community is the word. Yeah, I'm so obsessed with my community. And I know a lot of artists are like, I have the best community, but like, I don't know. Something about the Gloom Squad. They're just the nicest group of people and they're so supportive. And it just kind of led to this thing where, you know, uh, I don't know, my community is just so nice and I'm so thankful for it. Uh, and sometimes when I go really viral and I leave my community, I see what's out there. Like there's some monsters out there waiting to comment on my videos. But the Gloom Squad keeps me safe. So
Do you get a lot of hate?
I do, yeah. I have said I am, I don't deal with that well. I could see 5,000 positive comments and see one negative comment, and it will ruin me. And so I've actually gotten pretty good at setting up filters so that certain words just are immediately hidden and I don't even see the comments, which has helped. But yeah, anytime a hate comment comes in though, people usually are pretty quick to shut it down as like sub replies. But if it gets to like name calling and all that stuff, I'll just delete the comment so that because even that person who left that mean comment, like I don't know what's going on in their life. Maybe something horrible just happened and they needed to vent on a stranger. So if I see like 50 of my fans getting after them and going at their throats, like I'll hide the comment. So we can shut that down.
That's good. So you're kind of like with the app, you've kind of created almost like a Patreon kind of space where like
Yeah.
you can pay some coins and like you'll get access to my early stuff early. It's a little bit more intimate, it's a little more
Mhm.
specific. But then at the same time, when you branch out or go viral, like you said, you can see the overall kind of reactions, which are probably super useful to get
Mhm.
opinions from outside of your community group, but at the same time, like just shutting down any sort of nonsense.
Yeah, 100%. It's when it starts to turn into, like, personal attacks. People can say my music sucks or this is trash or whatever, like, cool, subjective, I don't care. But when it starts turning into, like, personal attacks, that's when we don't keep that stuff on my page. That goes away. I don't like that vibe.
And take out the trash. You are
Yeah,
very
take out the trash.
transparent with your mental health online. How do you find people's reaction to you being so honest with what you're dealing with?
I It's great. I'm glad that I am able to do that, and I know not everyone can do that and receive the same response that I receive. When I first started doing TikTok and Instagram, I started as a mental health advocate. I wasn't even doing the elder ego stuff, um, or had the Is It Josh solo project going. It was all mental health. So the core followers that I built at first are of that scene, you know? Um, and so it's kind of ever since day one, like they know, like they know what's up, and the new followers will find out because 'cause I'll crash out or I'll post something, you know? And, it's just one of those things where, it's a little strange because, I can post something where I'm obviously in distress and I'm, you know, ranting or venting about something, and that post will get me, like, hundreds of followers and whatever. Like, it's kind of weird, to come at like, it's a little strange, but at the same time, I do recognize that a lot of these people are looking for somebody that they can relate to, you know. Especially I'll see a lot of musicians who are just like, hey, it's so cool to see someone who's, where they're aiming to have a 250,000 followers and they think that maybe I've got it all figured out. And 'cause it's really easy to just post the good. So when I am open about the stuff and I post the bad, I see these messages coming in. They're like, hey, it's so nice to see someone like, because I thought I was alone in this. It's,
Well, yeah, and
it's nice.
it's one of those things, like, do you when you first started talking about mental health on social media, like, were you nervous about the reactions you would get or the responses, or was it just one of those things you just dove into and didn't even think about it?
Yeah. I mean, I was nervous. I was nervous, but I would call it luck, I think. I don't know, or maybe it was just early TikTok vibes, but people were just so nice and so receptive to it all. Some people would come on and be like, "Okay, Tumblr boy," but that was like the worst that I would get. But yeah, it's nerve-wracking, sometimes if I get really deep or really heavy or if I'm crying in the video or something like that, I'll send it off to a friend and be like, "Can I post this?" Like, "Is this too much?" And they'll be like, "Yo, add a trigger warning." And I'll be like, "Okay, cool." And then I'll go and I'll edit like, "Hey, trigger warning." But yeah.
That sounds so familiar. I've definitely sent Imperium a few videos being like, "Is this unhinged?"
I'm like,
And the response is usually, "Yes, this is unhinged."
Yeah, yeah. But being that vulnerable is rare. It's rare, and even when people are vulnerable, it's usually like, "Hey, this is what used to happen, and now I'm very happy, and look at this. I Everything's great right now." And the people who need to see that are the ones who are in bed at 6 p.m., hungry, with no appetite, crying, doing anything they can to get out of their bed, and they can't because there's something chemically wrong in their brain. And then you see me pop up, "Hey, guys, I used blah, blah, blah." Like, that's not what people wanna see, you know what I mean? So there's times where, like, if I'm feeling like that, I'll just drag myself out of bed and set my camera up, and I'll do, like, "Hey, let's save our day together at 7 p.m." And it'll show me, like, getting out of bed and making my bed, taking a shower, cooking dinner, and then by 9 p.m., I'm parked in front of my TV with candle incense going, and it's more like, "Come on, we can all do this, like, we're in this together," and it's less like motivational speak. Like, I never feel like I have, like, a single mic coming down and I'm, like, walking out onto a stage
the
like,
Tony
"Yeah, we all
Robbins.
do." Yeah, no, I try to just keep it real.
So it sounds like you foster, like, camaraderie among people who are, like, going through a hard time or going through a struggle. And do you find that that translates to, like, new followers and, new listeners, new fans fairly well?
Very well. Yeah. I would say that not promoting my music gets me more listeners than promoting the music, and that's such a weird thing to say. Um, but the more I talk about just the human Josh and how I'm doing and what I'm doing and things like that, people are more interested in them. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna check out your music. You seem like a nice person. But if I start a video, I'm like, hey guys, this is my new song. Check it. My average
Crickets.
watch time is like half a second. You know what I mean? And I do it too as a consumer. If I'm scrolling TikTok and I see someone standing in front of a microphone, I'll be honest, I scroll. I just scroll because I know what's about to happen. It's gonna be lip syncing. It's gonna be a song, and then at the end of it, they're gonna ask for a pre-save. But if you click the pre-save link, it doesn't work because it opens up in the TikTok browser and you're not logged in on whatever. You know what I mean? And so it's just this
Oh.
whole thing. It's like I don't know. So that's again why like today I made a post where I'm like, hey guys, I do some talking first. I'm like, hey guys, I like to do this and I like to write sad songs that sound like this thing. Whatever. And then yeah, like I said, it's just me watering my plants because I'm not gonna get up and lip sync and do that stuff anymore. I think there was an era for that, but I can't anymore. It
Yeah, it's kind
sucks
of
the
like,
soul out of me.
oversaturated a little bit. I think
So oversaturated. Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think the only ones I don't skip when I see a microphone is the Nothing Nowhere Will It emo.
Willa emo, genius.
Genius.
And that is
Genius.
that's a version of what I'm talking about where he's like, he's not promoting his music. He's asking a legitimate question and
Mhm.
then providing the answer. You know what I mean? He's not saying like, hey guys, I just released this cover of this song that I think you guys are all gonna love. It's just it's totally different. It's like, will it emo? And then just play it.
And we're all interested to see if it will or
And that's
not.
it. Yeah. Like they all, yeah. I think the trick is, if there's any musicians watching this, is don't promote your music. I know you have to. Okay, you
Mhm.
have to, but like, just, just, I don't know. Just live around your music. Let your music like live with you, your stories, post a nice little life update, but your song's playing in the background, just things like that. Just, it
It's so
doesn't have to just be
interesting
promo.
because we talk, on the pop side of things, we talk about Gen Z and how they want like this kind of level of authenticity in their artists. And that's why we see artists that don't have very good media training kind of up and coming or they go viral.
Hmm.
Um, and it's one of those things where you also have, based on like the genre you're doing, you're also targeting, millennials who have
Hmm.
started to mature a little bit. And there's something real about being open about like what's going on in your daily life, the struggles you're going through, that kind of appeals to both of those audiences at the same time.
Yeah, and it's interesting, not to get into like too much nerdy statistics or whatever, but my core listener base is 25, 26 to 45, you know. So that's the chunk of them. And the other chunk is that 18 to 24. Um but it's a much smaller chunk and I can see that not on just Spotify, the Instagram as well. And it's kind of cool because those younger cats that are following me are like, a lot of them are following me to be like, how should I dress? Like, how did these emos dress? You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like they're looking up to me like, oh, this guy like was emo when I think emo was cool, like in 2007. So like, it's a lot of that. And then like, they'll kind of stumble into my music. But a lot of the younger people that follow me are more just following me for like the culture and like the trend of like all grunge, emo. It's cool. And then like the people in our age bracket are the ones that are more listening to the music, which I find interesting.
Um, as an artist also in the influencer space, how do you balance the creative side with the business side of music?
So delicately, and it's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing to, you know, it's striking that balance, and I've kind of talked about it before, but like you just don't know when you should promote, when you should do creative stuff, and then in the back end you're doing all this admin stuff, and you have tour managers yelling at you because you didn't post the show announcement, and you're like, there's just a lot of things going on behind the scenes that are very stressful, and you got to get in front of the camera, and you're either doing a trend or a joke or something. But I think also you run into that risk of if you do too much trendy stuff on social media, people are like, "Oh, you're an influencer," and then all of a sudden you're ripped out of that music space. And social media knows this. Like, if suddenly one of my memes go viral, Instagram is gonna stop prioritizing my content to people who see and use it. It's gonna start So then if my next post is about music, it's gonna show it to a bunch of 18-year-olds who thought my last meme about goth girls ruining my life was you know what I mean? So that is a balancing act. And I wish that I had it more figured out, and I think that's probably something that I really need to lock in. Like I feel like people like me probably have spreadsheets and planners and they're like filling out whiteboards and things. And it's like I am recording my content and uploading it. I don't think I've ever had a graph, to be honest. I think I've maybe had like one or two drafts.
I will going back to the mental health things for a sec. So as someone who also struggles with mental health, I find that the meds make me feel a little bit emotionally muted.
Mhm.
When this happens, I find it really difficult to push through when creating, and it's like my superpower has been turned off.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced anything like that? And like, how do you push past those feelings, if so?
Yeah, and I've dealt with that my whole life is this like I'll get into these modes where I'm just hyper focused and I'm just creating and creating and creating, going, 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 staying up till 6 a.m. and making video games and learning how to code and blah, blah, blah. And then I'll just crash because I am bipolar too. And so I will switch between hypomania and depression. And I don't really have a normalized state yet. And I'm working on it, but like you said, I've tried every pill, I think, or every genre of pill, and they all mute me in different ways and make my body react in different ways. And I'm still figuring it out. I don't have the greatest answer. I will say that that's usually when I crash out and I'll post something like I did the other day or one of those videos where I'm just very sad and my music's playing over, but I will just press record and do something. Like it does it I feel like once you do that, it's like that fear. I get a lot of this like fear of things, if I don't go live for a week, it's like I can't go live ever again. I didn't go live. But it's just you have to white knuckle it one time. You've got to just brute force it, and if you can break through it, typically following that, it's like, okay, this is less scary. I just did the scary part yesterday. Like I can keep this riding out. And so that's my advice and that's what my therapist tells me too, is just like sometimes you gotta just do it, man. Like you just gotta white knuckle. And once you just kind of break through that wall, it's like runners. You know what I mean? You see runners talk about like breaking through the wall, like their body is about to collapse, and the next thing you know, they do their best mile they've ever done to finish the race out. And I think that's what it is. You just gotta, yeah, you gotta know what's happening. You gotta, know that it's your medication and your chemical imbalance, and that it's not gonna fix itself. You're not getting the dopamine that you need, so you've got to just go do it, even if your reward center is not firing. You know.
Got you. Do you apply that to like releasing music as well, like or
Mhm.
sharing music on socials and stuff? Like you've created this piece of art. Maybe you're personally happy with it, but perhaps you're worried it's not going to meet the standards or meet your audience needs, what have you. And so you kind of just force yourself to like, no, it's just I have to put it out there, or else it'll never get out there.
Yeah, 100%. And "Can't Take Back" is one of those songs where I was like, "This isn't. I don't think this is a single. I don't think this is good enough to come out by itself. But we have to delay the album, and I have to release something." And it ended up it's, like, one of my most popular like, it's getting the most streams, the most conversion rates, like, the fastest out of anything I've released. So that's kinda like, wow, I'm one of those things where it's like, I almost didn't do this because I was doubting myself and I was sad and all these things, and then I released it, and it's going really well. But then where things get hard for me is leading up to a song release. I am usually that's usually a trigger for me, so I'm usually hypomanic at that point, and I'm going after it, and then when that song releases, I crash so hard. And you can kinda go through my socials and see, like, the lead up to songs and then the sharp drop off for, like, 3 weeks, and you're like, "Oh, he crashed."
Yeah.
He
He's done.
crashed. He's and then I'll come back out of nowhere, and that is something that I am not okay with, but I'm working on it, it's something that I'm actively working on, but it's something I see. It's something I see, and I'm doing it right now with one of my songs, so, yeah, it's the constant struggle and the constant just like, "Okay, I just gotta keep working. I gotta keep doing s."
Some of my favorite songs from my listening party I did. Obviously can't take back, and I really enjoyed People Pleaser as well.
Mm.
When I was listening to that song, it felt like you were singing about someone I know.
Yeah.
Like I don't perhaps other audience members can connect with it, but like I felt like I knew that girl.
Yeah.
Tony Hawk was a really good one, and then I Don't Want to Fight from chapter 1
God, I
hit.
can't believe you went back to chapter 1. That's so great.
Oh yeah, I went all the way back. For at least for this project that you're
Yeah.
working on. And yeah, no, I Don't Want to Fight hit me so hard right square in the chest. I was like, "What? No."
I Don't Wanna Fight is my favorite Is It Josh song, and it's like a deep cut, so I just can't believe you're saying that. Yeah, I Don't Wanna Fight is what really kicked me off into this narrative writing style that I've kind of gotten into, where I used to write about myself all the time and just how bad things are, but lately I don't want to, and I will write about, you know, either my experiences and project them onto a fictional character, or I will write about someone I know and never tell them that that song is about them. That's the case with People Pleaser. Um, yeah, so that it's a narrative song, and a lot of my songs are becoming more and more narrative, which I love. Makes it really hard to promote, because they're not these really catchy lyrics that are gonna stick in your head for days because 'cause I'm writing a story about someone, but
I don't know if I agree with you. I think like a lot of what I listened to had really catchy hooks to it and where like they really pulled you in. And I walked away kind of
oh, cool.
taking the whole message, but also picking out little pieces that were relevant to me as well. So
Yeah,
like, I don't
I
know,
love that.
props to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that, that outside feedback because I don't hear much of it, especially as a solo artist, like, you know, so I'll just write a song and release it, and aside from the comments I see on Instagram, I have no idea. I don't have a band or a manager or anyone telling me if they like it, it's just I'll sit on my couch on release day and usually celebrate with a nice boba tea
Boba
and
tea.
just, yeah.
Have you ever had somebody, in your DMs be like, "Is this song about me?"
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
God.
In real and non-real ways. People pleaser, obviously, like, a lot of people connected with people pleaser. Um, and so I got a lot of those, like, "Oh my god, did you write this about me? Like, this is about me," but I don't know this person, you know?
Mm.
But no, yeah, there's been women in my life who have, like, sent me a text, and they'll be like, "Hey, just so you know, I listened to, I Don't Wanna Fight." And I'll be like, "Cool, thanks for listening." I
Thanks
don't
for
know
the
what to
engagement.
yeah, that wa I don't know what to tell you. Like, they'll never really hint. They'll kinda just drop hints like that. Like, "Hey, just so you know, I listened to this one song." I'll be like, cool.
Oh
Still
God.
not about you." Yeah, you're like, "Sorry. That one that came before it, that really, that sad one is about you, not this one."
This is not the cool one, not the amazing one.
Mhm.
Do you have a
Yeah.
favorite fan story or moment that has stuck out to you?
Yes, I do. It was my first Is It Josh show, and it was in Brooklyn. Um, and, it was in Brooklyn or Philly. It was one of the 2. I wasn't living out here yet, but it was on a tri-state run, and I looked out in the crowd, and it was full, and I was headlining. And I'm like, "Why is it full?" Yeah, and I was so confused. I'm like, "Who are these people?" And we we started and we did our first song, and there were people singing along, and I was like, "What is going on?" I was still living in Omaha, so I'm like, "Why are these people in New York singing to my song?" At the end of that song, I go, "Hold on a second." I go, "How many of you people know me?" And, like, all the audience, like, shot their hands up, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "How?" And then, like, it parted like a sea, and this one girl comes running up, and this is before I had merch. She had printed off my profile picture, put it on this shirt, and, like, made pseudo merch and, like, wore it to the show and told me that she flew 5 hours for this show, and I was just like, "That's awesome. That's so cool." And every now and then I see them comment stuff on my stuff. I'm like, "Wow, they're still around, like, they're still doing this." But that was, like, my first fan moment as, like, a solo artist where I was like, "Oh, it's happening."
It's
Like,
happening, I'm doing it.
yeah, because yeah, it's just, in Omaha, like, a lot of times family and friends show up and you got just, like, some supporters. I was in New York City, little Nebraska boy in New York City, just being like, "Anyone know who I am?" And then seeing that was like that I think that moment is where I was like, "Okay, I'm locking in. Like, I'm gonna go home and quit my job." And then I did.
Do you have any dream artist collabs that we can help manifest for you?
Yes. I do. And one of them is happening, and I can't announce it. I
Can you
have one
tell
of
me
my favorite
after?
yeah,
Yeah!
yeah. So one guy who I really look up to is on this album. And this is one of those people who, normally sings kind of like how I did in chapter 1, like very high all the time. And I convinced him to do an acoustic song with me. Uh which is very cool because this person does not do acoustic music. So yeah, so I've got them on a track, and then I would say my dream would be Anthony Green. And I would truly this song itself would just be me and him back and forth hitting the highest notes we can.
Just ping
Like
pong.
I'll take a 30-second song with Anthony Green just belting high notes back and forth at each other, and I'll die happy. Like that would be the dream because he's the guy that completely shaped my vocal style and even stage presence today. It just took precedence over anything that I had absorbed before I went to that first Circus Survive show back, gosh, when I was like 23, 24. It just game over. It was I was obsessed. Yeah. The only band I have tattooed, actually. The only
Wow,
one.
real fans over here.
If you're watching, Anthony, I don't know if you saw that.
He just showed a tattoo of a portrait of Anthony Green's face for anyone who's just listening.
I have a hyper realistic. Glad
Yeah.
you asked.
What can we expect from you this year? Any shows, any tours? I mean, obviously the album.
Yeah, and I'm sure by the time this episode comes out, this is fine for me to talk about. So, yeah, I've got my debut full-length album, a collection of short stories about the heart. That's very exciting because up until now, it's very hard to listen to me because you have to go to my Spotify and like either listen to my top songs or go through each EP that I've released up until now. So this will be the first time people will be able to binge me, which I'm really excited about. 18 songs, and then from there, yeah, it's showtime. So I'll have my album release show in my hometown, Omaha. Can't forget about them. So flying out to Omaha, gonna be my album release show there uh, on June 1st. And then end of June, I'm going out to New Jersey and New York City again to play some shows out there. And then you can look forward to a tour coming. I'll cheaply keep board to support the album. We'll see if I'm going out on my. I'm trying to decide if I want to go out by myself and play with locals or if I want to uh, commit to having a band cool time. So those are the big things. I'm teaching myself videography, and my plan is to make my own music video for every single song on the album. So we'll see. Hopefully, we see an evolution of better and better music videos. I made the one for Unclear, and now I kind of just want to see if I can make 18 music videos. So
A visual
Hell
album.
yeah.
That's a really high thing to aspire to.
yeah,
So
pretty
that
par for the course for me.
How
but
can I
that's
make things
awesome.
harder?
If
Album's out. What are you gonna do now? 18 music videos by myself with a camera I just bought and have just learned what ISO means. Yeah, and it'll help me mix in some professional looking stuff into these living room videos I'm always doing. Because I'll be honest, I am so anxious in public. Like, I cannot film. I cannot. Like, these people who just walk out there and record themselves. Like, how are you doing that? I I will I will be walking and recording something on my story, and if like there's a pedestrian walking at me, I will pretend I'm FaceTiming. I'll
Oh my
just
god.
I will suddenly just move it and be like, yeah, man, yeah. So I'll be and then when they pass, I'll go back up and I'll finish recording. I am hyper afraid of the world around me. So
Why? They're
yeah,
not
doing
gonna do
music videos.
anything.
Yeah, I know. And what's so funny is like I see those people and I'll purposely just get out of their way and move on with my day. But for some
Yeah.
reason, and I even told myself like if I move from Omaha, move to Philly, it's a bigger city. It'll break my fear. No, it didn't.
We just need
It
some
didn't at all.
exposure therapy for you. You need to record
Yeah, and
everything
I do that.
outside.
Yeah, I'll body double. Like I'll bring one of my friends with me, and the second I have someone with me, it's like cool. Yeah, hit record. I'm cool. But if I'm alone, no way, no way.
I feel like that's must stem back to that, like, even though being an influencer, being popular on social media is something that's almost commonplace now, there's still this like stigma of the general public towards influencers. Like Imperium can talk because, she's very experienced filming in a public place.
Yeah.
And there's always someone who is tuned in to like what you're doing in that moment and paying attention. And it gives you that like, oh God, stop looking at me kind of energy.
Right before I hopped on this podcast, I was doom scrolling a little bit. One of the first posts I saw was like, welcome to influencer hell or something like that. And it was like just people enjoying themselves at Coachella, like taking photos of their fits in front of the Ferris wheel and stuff. And it had like 1 million likes. And I was like, why do you hate people? What is this? And I like people be like, oh, I hate influencers so much. And content creators are killing our world and our attention spans. And then they will go consume 6 hours of influencer content, love it, not watch TV, send all these out to their friends, meme about it for months because it came from an influencer. And then the second they see one, ah, look at that influencer
It's like,
doing that
how do you
stupid
think the
stuff.
sausage is made? We have to be we have to go out there, and especially saying that while you're at Coachella making fun of other people at Coachella, absolutely go fuck yourself. You
You know what?
knew.
I don't normally do this, but I went to that person's profile who posted it, and they had a picture of themselves in front of the Ferris wheel.
Oh
And
my
I was like,
god.
oh, okay. And people were calling that out. And he's like, yeah, but I got in and out, like took a picture and walked away. I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, spread the hate.
You're not better
Yeah.
than everyone just because you were faster at your Coachella Ferris wheel picture. Oh my god.
And let's be honest, a lot of these people, if you approach them and said, hey, I'm gonna pay you $X thousand a month and you can quit your job, all I need out of you is just to record some funny videos and like travel the country and go to music festivals. What, are you gonna say no? I'm an accountant. Like you're gonna do it, So stop hating on people. Like we're just like, it's people who are working legitimate job and content creation and doing the influencer thing is stressful. You know what I mean? Imagine your job is walking out in front of your office and telling everyone what you did. And then they can all give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down and they can speak freely with HR out of the room. But imagine that's 250,000 people and not the 200 that work at your office. And like that's what an influencer has to deal with every day. So it's just like,
I wonder if that vitriol kind of hatred towards influencers in general is something that stems from like some sort of self-conscious feeling that people get. There's this idea that being an influencer has a level of cringe to it. And is it something to do with that? It's so interesting because like you said, people will sit there and scroll for hours and consume content from these creators. But as soon as they see one in person, it's like, kind of.
yeah. Yeah, like people don't walk up to an actor after they watch a movie and be like, "Ugh, there's an actor."
Right.
Like,
Nobody gets mad at them for like posing on the red carpet and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Fuck
yeah,
you, Florence
welcome to
Pugh.
influencer. Like, oh, the red carpet. Yeah, it's absurd. And even celebrities. I think it was like the Met Gala or whatever that thing is, were like posting stories like, they let influencers in. Okay. Wow. And you know what? Those influencers are going to bring way much more awareness to this event than you ever will because you are just going to walk down the red carpet, have a photo taken, you're going to go sit down in your seat. And this influencer is a 26-year-old who is ecstatic to be there and overwhelmed by the sights and sounds and having the best time of their lives. Like, why do you want to hate on my character? Like,
It gives the same energy as the people when you post a video that are like, "You're just doing this for attention." Like, yeah, that's the
that's what we
point.
all do every day
That
of our
is the
lives.
currency of this app. What the fuck do you mean? Yes, and give it to me, please.
It's
Thank
the
you.
currency of the world. It's the currency of the world. You want to get better in your job? You want to advance in your career? You want to do anything? What are you doing? That's what you're doing. We're just all doing it in different capacities.
Mishka, did you have any remarks before we wrap up?
my only remark would be, Josh, if you have things you want to bounce off people, feel free to slide into the DMs because I
Oh,
will
absolutely,
listen
100%.
and dissect. I will listen and dissect. So feel free. But
I'm gonna send you my next crash out and be like, hey, can I post this to Maine or is this for my story only? Like,
and then my response will probably be like, well, I'm actually kind of manic myself and this seems
yeah,
fine.
yeah. You're like, let me send it to Emporium, and then she hits his
Emporium,
bolt back with,
excuse you.
and
What the fuck? I'm gonna call you Is It Juice then. I am utterly
Listen,
offended in my
I
own
know.
house.
Speaking of speaking of Is It Juice, when you used to have Spotify, you know that creepy DJ X, like,
Yes,
"What up? We're gonna
I
set
hated
up the
him.
vibe here." Yeah, me too. But it used to be that they'd be like, "Up next is It Josh?" And I was like, "Oh, sick." And now they say, "I sit Josh." Like, I sit. So, like, up next, we have I sit Josh. And I'm like, "No! Somebody go in there and fix it. Who do I hit up? Who do I
I
ask?"
No, no, that's your merch.
I sit.
I sit Josh.
With a picture of a chair, an illustration of a
Yeah.
chair by itself
Yeah.
in a room.
All of my concerts are sit down only. Just those really uncomfortable folding chairs. Yeah.
I would be fine with it. I'll sit and rage the back.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing. I'm not sitting, I'm usually leaning against the soundboard. Or so like, not the soundboard, but the sound booth, you know? Oh,
I wanted to ask you just to kind of, wrap up and to close. As someone who struggles with mental illness, if you are a friend to someone and you notice your friend struggling, what advice would you give to that friend that could help someone?
okay, so here's what I do, and I do this a lot. I listen, and I don't offer advice. I listen, and I listen, and I listen. And if it is too heavy, I will give my advice and things like that, and then I will say, "Hey, maybe you should check out therapy." And I will always try to lead people towards therapy. I think that there's a stigma around it still, even if we say that there's not, because I think some of us live in a bubble where there is no stigma. But I just always want to have an open ear and listen and make sure that I am not giving advice to people that should come from a medical professional. Do you know what I mean? So just being like, yeah, that sucks. That really sucks what you're dealing with. I'm really sorry that you're dealing with that. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to let that out? Do you always say like my void is open, scream into it? That's something I say to my friends all the time.
Aw.
I'll cuddle. You know, I have friends that I'm a lover. I believe in platonic love. I will cuddle with my friends when they're touch starved. I will do that kind of stuff. But yeah, if they're not in therapy and I see some signs, I will gently start nudging them. Oh, I can't afford it. Oh, you looked at BetterHelp? You know, have you looked at this? Or you looked at some free resources? Just anything I can to kind of get them in that direction of, hey, you know, just so you know, you trauma dumped like 8 times in the last 10 days and he might need some help here, you know. And I think that if we keep that rolling, then I think we can hold on to a lot more people, you know, get them
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah. It's definitely, I totally agree with you. Validating someone's feelings and then also kind of directing them towards resources is like a
Mhm.
really great way to kind of do your part while also kind of creating some boundaries. I've had to do
Yeah.
that with some of my close friends where it's like, I
Mhm.
love you, but I can't take this on
Yeah.
personally. And also just making people ask like the important questions. Like it took the better part of a decade before I was in a place at rock bottom where I was able to ask myself, like, is something wrong?
Mhm.
And I just wish that I had the foresight and ability to realize that so much sooner,
Yeah.
because it like really can change the trajectory of things.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. 100%. Because you go from just thinking like, oh, everyone lives like this and they're all doing so much better than me and like having such an easier time. And then you go and like when I got my diagnosis for all the slew of things I got no cooked with, uh, it just made things make so much more sense. And now I can be like, yo, you're not sad about anything. There's something going on chemically, you know. You're struggling to eat because you're not being rewarded for it in your brain, but you know what? Get up and go eat. Show up for yourself like you show up for everyone else, and then we take it for free.
It's not a chemical imbalance, it's your chemical romance.
It's a chemical romance, and sometimes it breaks your heart, and sometimes it doesn't. You know, it's like we're in a toxic relationship. Right.
Relatable. So
Very
relatable.
that, very that.
Well, Josh, let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, I keep things so simple for a reason. Is it Josh everywhere? One word. Even my website, isitjosh.com. If you want to email me, go ahead. Josh at isitjosh.com. My app, Is It Josh. We're Joshing everywhere. So yeah, I would say the best bet, go to my website, isitjosh.com. I've got links to literally every platform there, and that's your gateway. So
Amazing. Well, thank you. I sit Josh. It was a wonderful conversation, and I think we're going over time, but maybe we'll do a part 2.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Remind us again when your album comes out.
May 30th.
May 30th.
Yep,
Okay.
it's coming.
All right. So if you are listening and you haven't followed on Spotify, on YouTube, on all the places, go do that so that you don't miss out when the album drops. Thank you again so much for coming to chat with us. It was really
Thanks for
fun.
having me. Yeah, that was a blast.
And yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Millennials, oh my
Oh.
god. All of us.